So if you are an international student or an expat about to move to Finland, you might be worried about the long, dark and cold winters that we have here and the way that the Finnish winters can mess with your mind and body unless you know how to deal with them. So if you are one of these people, don't worry, because in this video I will share with you 5 insider tips on how to deal with the Finnish winter like a local. What's up guys and welcome back to the channel, it's Oliver here. So how do you survive winter in Finland? Well, the first and probably the most obvious thing to take into account is to have proper winter clothing. So when dressing up for winter weather, a key term that you will be hearing a lot in Finland is layering. So dressing in layers means that instead of wearing one really thick piece of clothing, you actually wear multiple thinner layers on top of each other, allowing these layers to trap warm air between them. In fact, wearing just one super thick layer, no matter how good your jacket or jumper is, it will not keep you warm when the weather gets really cold, because dressing like this will not allow the warm air to be held under the single layer of clothing as well as it would if you wore more layers. So just remember, it's all about layering. So the cool thing about wearing layers is that this allows you to use most of the clothes that you actually already own, so there is no need to change your entire wardrobe when moving to Finland. Instead, you might simply have to buy some new base layers that are specifically intended for colder climates that you then wear under your normal jeans or hoodies or whatever it is that you like to wear. So I will give you a list of important things to buy in just a second, but before that, just to give you an example, it is currently -10 degrees Celsius in Helsinki, so it's not that cold considering Finnish winter. And what I'm actually wearing is currently just a plain pair of chinos with a pair of long merino wool underpants underneath them. In addition, I'm wearing just a normal cotton t-shirt under my jacket, but on top of that I have a woolen jumper and this warm and windproof woolen winter coat. For gloves, I do have here a pair of wool-lined leather gloves that are also fully windproof. As you can see, I am wearing a beanie because it's actually pretty cold right now because of the high winds. Wearing a good beanie is really important because you actually lose most of your body heat through your head, and it is super important to protect your head during the winter climate. Finally, and also super importantly, I'm also wearing a warm scarf to protect my throat and neck from the cold weather. So while I'm wearing what I'm currently wearing in -10°C, if it got colder, I could simply just change my t-shirt to a long-sleeved base layer with for example, a warmer material like merino wool. And if it actually got really cold, I would actually add a pair of thin gloves underneath these leather gloves. I'm actually not wearing these because it's easier to film without them. By actually having a thinner layer of gloves under my thicker gloves, I can just basically take my outer gloves out, for example, in order to find my keys or wallet from my pockets without freezing off my fingers. Regardless, this is what I would actually normally wear during the winter in the city specifically, even if it got really cold. I would just basically add or remove layers and change the materials of those layers based on the weather. In a future video, I will also show you how to dress in extreme cold weather, for example, if you're studying in the northern parts of Finland or if you're visiting, for example, Lapland. Alright, so now that you know how layering works, let's talk about some of the winter-specific items that you should buy regardless. Oh, and by the way, it's 2 days later. I just had to come and refilm some of these parts because we actually got some snow on the ground during the night. Anyways, first of all, you need a warm coat or a jacket. So do note that you do not have to buy the thickest and warmest of jackets, and you do not have to spend enormous amounts of money on it. Again, key here is layering and not necessarily how thick your jacket is. Regardless, if you only look to buy one jacket, make sure that it is at least windproof and it has a hood to protect you from the colder weather and heavy winds. In terms of what material the jacket has to be, it doesn't really matter that much. However, I would recommend either a synthetically insulated jacket or a woolen jacket, and I would actually recommend against buying a down jacket because the amount of maintenance that you actually have to put into those kind of jackets is actually quite a lot, and you can very easily ruin an expensive down insulated jacket if you, for example, wash it incorrectly, or if you even even store it in correctly. So again, I would recommend a synthetically insulated jacket or a woolen coat. So in addition to a jacket, you are of course going to need a warm hat that is large enough to cover your ears. It's good to note that your ears, fingers and other extremities are the parts of your body that freeze up first, so make sure to protect them in the cold weather. In addition, it's also good practice to buy a good pair of warm gloves or mittens, just like these leather ones that I have here. However, do note that there's a ton of different materials, both for the outer layers of these outer gloves, as well as for their insulation, but just make sure that the gloves you buy are at least windproof. Again, you can also buy a second pair of thinner gloves that I have right here that you actually wear under the thicker pair. But this is usually only necessary when it gets really cold. These thinner gloves can be, for example, made out of silk or merino wool. Next up, make sure to buy a nice and warm scarf, or if you don't like using scarves, make sure that your winter jacket has a long collar that is enough to cover your neck even in heavier winds and snowfall. Next up, make sure to buy yourself a few good pairs of warm socks. So while cotton socks are just fine for indoor events or, for example, if you commute to work, I would recommend that you also get a pair or two of good quality woolen socks that you can put over the cotton ones whenever you spend more time outside. The problem with cotton as a material is that once it gets wet, it doesn't really want to dry up. So this means that if you get your socks even slightly wet while outside during the winter, you will most likely have cold feet regardless of how good your shoes are. Talking of which, the second most important thing after getting a good winter jacket is actually getting a good pair of windproof and also preferably waterproof shoes that are specifically made for winter conditions. So there are a bunch of different types of shoes that you can wear, from winter running shoes to insulated sneakers all the way to winter boots. So instead of telling you what to wear, I would simply recommend that once you arrive to Finland, just walk into the closest shoe store and ask for help from the staff so that they can help you find a good pair of winter shoes that also fit your style. So having said this, if you are coming from a warm country and you don't really have any winter clothes before coming to Finland, I really recommend that you buy most of your winter clothes, at least the key ones that I just mentioned before, in Finland after your arrival. So this is because in Finland, stores naturally sell really high quality clothes that are specifically made for the cold Finnish climate, and you can easily find really good winter clothes in all different price ranges, from international chains like H&M all the way up to super expensive outdoor brands. In addition, if you are on a really tight budget, I have listed a bunch of second-hand stores that operate around Finland in the description box below, from where you can find really good and also really cheap winter clothes. If you're coming to study in the Finnish capital region, I really recommend that you check out the student apartments from today's sponsor, which is HOAS. So HOAS, or the Foundation for Student Housing in the Helsinki region, is a non-profit foundation and the largest student apartment provider in the Helsinki area. They build, rent and maintain over 10,000 buildings in the Helsinki metropolitan area, and I've personally been living in their apartments all throughout my studies. So what is really cool about HOAS is that their buildings, just like this one being built in the Kalasatama district, are not only super affordable, but they're also really well located when it comes to commuting to the different campuses around the capital region. So for example, this upcoming HOAS student apartment building, once finished, will be just 15 minutes away from the center of Helsinki and around 15 to 30 minutes away from the biggest campuses around the capital region. Anyways, more information about HOAS and all of their apartments around the Helsinki metropolitan area through the links in the description box below. In addition to having proper winter clothing, it's really important that you also make yourself visible to other traffic goers. Because during the winter and during the long days, it's common that you commute to and back from work when it's dark. It's very difficult for other people in the traffic, especially people driving cars, to see you on the streets. This is especially true because Finnish people, for some reason, like to dress in either fully black or otherwise dark colors during the winter. This can lead into really dangerous situations, for example, when crossing the road, even on pedestrian crossings, simply because the dark colors combined with the darkness of the day make you almost invisible to other people, especially to those driving cars. So there are naturally many types of reflectors that you can use. A couple of really popular options are, for example, one that you can wrap around your arm like this on top of your clothes, or one that you can actually pin into your clothes using a safety pin. Also, another really popular option nowadays is a reflecting harness, and is very common especially with the runners. However, the reflecting harnesses are becoming more and more popular with day-to-day commuters. Because of the darkness, I didn't think of this. But yeah, they're becoming more and more common during the dark days of the winter. Alright, so talking about the darkness of the winters, this is actually what impacts most people the heaviest. So yes, the winter days in Finland are long and dark, and during the shortest days of the winter, we only get a few hours of sunlight. Actually, the higher up north you go, the shorter the days are, and in the northernmost parts of Finland, we experience something called the polar night, or Kaamos in Finnish. So this time period, which lasts around 52 days in the northernmost parts of Finland, is a time period during which the sun does not rise above the horizon at all. So this means that the higher up north you live, the less sunlight you get each day of the winter. So because of the small amount of sunlight, people living here often experience deficiencies in vitamin D. So this is why it's really important that you buy and eat vitamin D supplements all throughout the year until the days grow longer in the spring. You can find vitamin D supplements easily from any pharmacies and from any well-stocked grocery or convenience stores. So as a segue, the next tip for fighting off the darkness and the subsequent weariness and fatigueness that many people experience here is by buying daylight lamps. So the idea of daylight lamps is for them to actually mimic the colors and the spectrum of daylight, which helps you stay energized and awake all throughout the day. So while it is possible to buy these custom daylight lamps that some people use, for example, on their desks while working, my experience is that using, for example, smart lamps that can change the color works just as well, as long as you remember to make a custom daylight setting for your workday. So another great way for you to fight the cold and dark of the winters here in Finland is by taking use of any of the beautiful days that we have here. For example, today is the first week of December, and how beautiful is this? As you can see, the sea is just about to freeze over, at least here in the coastline. We have had a very cold week. Yesterday was -16. Today I think is -14 or something, and this has been going on for a week now. But yeah, one of the best ways to fight the dark of the winter is to utilize beautiful days like this. Go outside, soak in the sun, and just, you know, enjoy the moment, because these don't come that often. So as you can see, while winters in Finland can feel long and dark, they can actually also be absolutely beautiful and lovely, just like today. Personally, winter is my favorite time of the year, with a huge caveat: if we have snow. In 2020, or during the winter of 2020, we didn't actually get any snow to the capital here in Finland, so to Helsinki. 2021 basically said, hold my beer. And this is what we got in just 2 days. Traffic in downtown Helsinki is completely jammed, has been for a day and a half now. But because getting this much snow to Helsinki is nowadays pretty rare, I'm enjoying it full-heartedly. So while some people love the winter because of the snow, the nature and culture in Finland, in my opinion, can also offer so much more, even if we don't have snow on the ground. So for example, today is Saturday. I thought that there's no better way to actually enjoy some free time than actually coming to our lakeside cottage here in Nuuksio, which is around 30 minutes away from the center of Helsinki, heating up our lakeside sauna and spending some time in the middle of the nature. It's completely quiet. The only thing I can hear is the chirping of a few birds. So what is really cool about today is actually yesterday we had the first really good sub-zero temperatures during the night, meaning that we actually have a thin coating of ice here on the lake. So that means I will heat up the sauna, and in the evening, you know, light up some candles and enjoy the quiet, go ice swimming and try to relax as much as I can. So yeah, even while winters in Finland can feel a bit depressing at first, I'm sure that you will learn to enjoy and even love them if you have the right attitude and the right clothes to fight off the cold. So now that you know how to survive winter in Finland, next I recommend that you check out this video where I share even more tips on what kind of things you need to know before you move to Finland. Thanks again for watching, guys, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!